Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video is a little bit different. You know, over the years I've put out well over 1,000 videos, maybe even 1,200 videos on this channel alone. I also put out videos on another channel that I call Joe Daddy's Workshop. Now that is everything that is not car related, let's say. So it may be lawnmowers, it may be fixing a weed eater, it may be putting together a chainsaw, it could be a variety of things, but it's generally not car related. So this channel, when I started off many years ago, I was focused on making videos to help promote our body shop that we had at the time, and of course that has all gone away, and so I focused on making videos about repair processes and how to rebuild a car and all these different things. So if you've been following me a long time, you already know that I have quite a lot of videos that covered Camaros and Mustangs, and some of those, they weren't the greatest. You know, the technology wasn't great. My understanding of how to film wasn't all that good, but I was able to put out some good information and help people out with their projects. So what I decided to do with this video, I wanted to try something different. I didn't make a video about anything that I'm doing currently, but I made a compilation video. And what I wanted to do is try to cover all of the work that I did for this whole year. That is really difficult, because I started off the year early on with a Bronco. At the end of last year, on December 30th, I think it was, I made the first video of the Bronco series. And so I took pieces from all the videos that I've made covering the Bronco and, of course, the Cobra Jet behind me, and maybe one or two others. I don't know if I put them all in there or not, but all of those videos, I took pieces out of those videos. It's taken me about 2 days to try to put all this together, and I just wanted to just kind of cover all of that. Now the reality is I put out probably hundreds of hours technically of information over the year, and I've covered a lot of ground in that time period. So I could not just put all those together, because literally it would be hours and hours and hours of the same thing you've already seen. So I'm trying to make it beneficial for everybody, that they can just see pieces of the projects and see how they move forward. So this video is going to be a bit long. It may be close to an hour long, but if you're, you know, a fan, you'll appreciate what I'm doing here. Along with that, I want to thank you for all the things you've done to help this channel continue to grow and continue to be on YouTube. Those of you that are new to the channel, I appreciate you coming in, leaving comments and thumbs up and all that sort of thing. All of that helps the channel, and I look forward to continuing to make videos into next year. So take a look at this video and stay tuned at the end so I can make my closing arguments. See ya. Today's video is an introduction to the Bronco project. You see in the background, there's the color that is probably going to be. Little things I'll have to work on. I can't let certain things go. Like there's a little bit of a piece of metal missing on that corner. I'll probably weld that and build it up. Pretty much like that. So as I said, I will be using this Raptor bedliner material. always try to use time lapse in my videos, and it speeds up the process, and it also makes it better for the viewer so they're not having to watch me do something at regular pace. It also helps with the production of the video. So with the fenders in place and the grill loosely bolted on, I can move the fender around a little for adjustment, but if I bring the grill up to the fender, there's a gap right here. And I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Much better than it was. It's still not going to be show truck, you know. I'm going to have some minor variations throughout this, but this is really important to me to have that at the right dimension, let's say, or pretty close to the right dimension. You know, when you're doing body work, you don't realize how much dust is in the air, so always wear a respirator. Try to protect yourself as much as you possibly can. I'm going to add more filler to that to build it up to get that smooth transition that I want. And what I want to get done today is I want to spray the engine bay with Raptor bed liner. So I have a basic, I guess, 1 gallon kit, as they call it. It comes with 4 bottles of Raptor black texture or black color. Keep them in place, so that's not a problem. And now the fun part. I say the fun part. I'm going to have to mask everything and get all this covered up as best I can. And you know, I talked about this line here. I'm going to mask that, and just whatever gets, you know, maybe a little bit of overspray or something will be fine, because that's not going to hurt anything at all. Same thing over here. Oh, I also masked off the rocker panels. I like the way that looks, gives it a tough, rugged look, and I'm looking forward to unmasking it and moving on to the next step. And of course, the hood was primed a couple weeks ago with 2K. I did put epoxy on it and then 2K high build, so I need to sand that and get it ready for the base coat. So to start with, I'm going to put guide coat on the hood and then sand it with the DA and 400. I will go over certain areas with a Scotch-Brite pad in order to prep it, because I can't get the DA into all these different little spaces such as the vents and that sort of thing. I will go over the whole thing and make sure it's ready to go and get it set aside, and then I'll work on the cowl and the windshield frame. The focus is to get paint in these areas only, and then be done with that section. Also, I have the lower piece of the grill here, the top one, and then the filler piece that goes underneath the back of the vehicle. So those are also prepped and ready to go. That's about all I feel comfortable with right now getting in here. The idea is that if I get, you know, this done, get the hood done in particular, I can get it completely out of the way, and those are just some bonus pieces back there. In some of these sequences, I had to remove music because of copyright issues. So here you go. Okay, so here is basically 3 coats of base. I wanted to make sure it had good coverage, and so I sprayed 3 coats. Same thing on the windshield frame. Just a quick look. I like the clear. Now I do have some dust nibs in there, so it'll be sanded and buffed But overall, yeah, I think it's looking pretty good, especially after pulling the tape back and being able to see the color against the Raptor. I do have a bit of a run right there on the windshield frame. So that's easy enough to fix. That'll be cleaned up and buffed. This video, what I'm doing is painting the grille independently. I had good luck with the tailgate, as it's seen over here, sorry. I had good luck with the tailgate painting it independently, or panel painting it. Very happy with the results. So that leads me to doing the grille by itself. Part of that reason is it's two colors. If you were just painting it one color, it would not be that big of a deal. But since I'm doing two colors, I'm doing the exterior in the limestone green, and I'm doing the interior part of that grille in Wimbledon white. Well, there it is. I like it a lot. That clear is laying out super nice. The masking worked out just the way I wanted it to. Very happy with this overall. Color looks fantastic. Here's one of the headlight bezels. Put that up front there. Everything looks like it matches very nicely. So it's going to look really good once we get it on the vehicle, of course, and later on with the lights and everything in place. But yeah, I am very, very happy with this. Today's video is part 10 in the Bronco paint series. So I'm going to go over the vehicle and show you where it's at, status, how it's masked, and all those sort of things. I do have some time lapse of where I mask off the vehicle. You know, there's different ways to do these sort of things, but this works for me. You can probably see I backmasked the wheel wells with tape, and then I put paper onto that tape and various other things that I've done along the way. Now, of course, I will be painting this and hopefully clear coating it all today. Now, when I'm doing this, when I'm painting, I want to have my paint flow constant. I want to have the direction flow over the panels. So it's simple enough to have these in place, but with these fenders, you have problems because you have this flange internally, which can be seen when the door is closed. Now with this sequence here, what I'm trying to demonstrate is how you, what they call, walk the car. And what that means is you're spraying paint and walking back and forth, creating a consistent overlap over the whole panel. So if you're trying to paint a car, you don't want to just do a fender and a door and a quarter panel. You want to walk the whole length of the car and continue that spray pattern so that when everything is said and done, the color is uniform. Now this isn't as critical with clear coat and stuff like that, obviously, but if you really want your paint job to look very good, do that. And then also I'm checking with this light that I got from Harbor Freight. It's kind of like a sunlight, and that shows you any problems that you may have with the paint and its coverage. Okay, it's green, and this is just the base coat. Now again, I've had to remove music because of copyright issues. So in this sequence here, I'm spraying the clear coat, and you can see I'm just doing each panel by itself. I'm not trying to do panel overlap to the next panel. And the reason for that is you want to focus on that one panel and make sure it's right, but you got to be very careful at your seams so you don't get too much in there. Okay, so here it is the next day, and things are looking pretty good. Fender looks good. Of course, I painted the cowl previously, and the color matches very nicely between the door frame and the windshield frame. Otherwise, things look pretty good. There is a slight run right there. Before we look at the Bronco itself, I'll just show you I have pieces and parts piled up. Tailgate, doors, hood. On top of those boxes are both front fenders. When I put in the Raptor liner, all of this area will be have the application of it. I'm going to mix up some epoxy and spray all of this, and I will spray epoxy on this as well. It may not be necessary, but I know the instructions say to spray epoxy, so I'm going to make sure everything has the same coating on it all over the place. All right, there she is. Top section here is done. I also sprayed the bottom of both rockers. And again, a tape line right up here at the top. And then of course the tailgate is coated. That's the way it is, and I think it all looks good. We'll leave that popsicle stick in there. Hey, there's no rattle at all, so that's one plus. Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video, well, it's going to be a final look at the Bronco project. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the paint job and how it looks. When I first started doing this, the plan was just to get paint on it, and the owner told me he was going to be taking it off-road, and that's fine. I mean, that's what these things are made for, so that's all good. So after spraying it, I had to take out some runs, clean up some runs, and I decided to color sand and buff. So as you can see in the reflection, it turned out probably better than expected. Not to say that there's not flaws. You know, every painter will tell you there's going to be flaws and things that they're not happy with, and I do have my own list of things. There is a filler piece as well, and this is a bolt-on. This is to take up the space for the lift kit, so that worked out really nice. I will admit, this part made me nervous. Here I have a freshly painted, color sanded, buffed vehicle, and I'm trying to put in this roll bar all by myself. And I did manage to make it happen. I didn't have any scratches or flaws or anything like that, but this was pretty stressful to get all that in place, but I'm so happy that it was, and here we are loading it up with the owner so he can take it back to his home. This is a 5-in-1 kit, okay? Lock that on, and then I'm going to hit the pump button. So there it's showing we have about 10 psi. You know, I'm really impressed with these little Loki Thor jump starters / air compressors. They do a great job for what they're made for, and I have several of these now, and I'm happy to have them. So basically, about 10 minutes to pump this tire up. Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video, I'm introducing the next project in the shop. This is a 69 Mach 1 428 Cobra Jet car. Yes, it's an original Cobra Jet. So I'm just going to do a basic walk around of this car, and I'm using my Osmo camera to just give you some better angles and different things. And so as I'm going around the car, the camera's going to pick up some different stuff, and we're going to go back and look this over again with the other camera so that you can see what's going on. Now, the car itself, it appears, I don't know if what this green was originally, but it was green. As you can see, it had the Mach 1 stripes on it, has the shaker hood, it has the side vents as normal 69s would have, and it has rust issues. So all of this is going to have to be addressed. And the thing is, this car, the only damage that I could find was some damage on the trunk lid. At some point in its life, it backed into something. Otherwise, these panels were all pretty much good. All right, you've been introduced to that project. Now, again, I will be calling it the Crunchy Cobra Jet. That'll be the playlist. So if you're interested in checking that out, by all means, keep up with it. I plan to have everything filmed that I'm going to do to this car and try to document everything for the owner. So for this video, what I want to do is start disassembly, as in removing the doors from the car, removing the hood from the car, removing the trunk lid, and cleaning out the interior, whatever's there, as much as I can, and trying to reduce the weight of the vehicle as much as I can. The goal is to put this body on that frame jig that I built. And with that, I want to be able to add some brackets or bracing to that to support the body by the pinch welds. So if you followed along on this build series, I made a jig out of this old boat trailer. And I have dedicated posts on the back here. This is where the forward spring perch would mount. And this is for the alignment hole that goes into the rear frame rail. And I also have some other pieces that will attach and hold everything in place. So here is the floor pan. This is part number 3648UWT. And I'm going to, I feel, safely assume that everything in the back is the same on the previous 67 or 68 Mustang, probably even the 65 and 6, but there are variations in the design of the floor pan. I will say, we've already talked about the fact that we're going to replace the entire upper roof skin, and the owner is getting a complete side for this, which is going to be great because I can salvage or use the bulk of that to replace all of this stuff. So that's the plan at this point. I'm pretty happy with all of this structure. I don't feel like anything's going to go anywhere, and just driving on. Now, of course, in this situation with the Cobra Jet, I had to reinforce the interior of it because I was really concerned with how structurally sound this car was when I was going to put it on the lift. So adding all that 1-inch square tubing made a big difference. It made me feel more secure with that. Here I am able to remove the rear differential and the leaf springs and then refit this back on top of the boat trailer jig that I made. Well, it's been a productive day. I'm pretty happy with these results. Very happy with how it fits. Cutting those notches in the towers here made all the difference, dropping it down on. And in the back, my bolts lined up with the holes that are there. At this point, I have the Mustang fully sitting on the boat jig. As you can see here, I've moved out this arm. Here is the passenger side again. The height is correct and the bolt is lined up. So now I can set the standoff in place where it belongs, get it lined up. and then run this up inside it. Ta-da! So when I set the floor pan on, that'll take care of the height for the floor supports and make sure nothing is dipping in the middle. So okay, the floor pan is on the frame jig. That's the same measurement. Now, of course, none of this is been squared out other than what's on the jig. There's still a lot of play in these areas. You can move this stuff around a little bit. It was more play up here, but now that that's locked in, I will probably attempt to do some sort of crisscross measuring. I can say we've started on it and have some success. So before I dig into disassembling this front suspension and everything, I just wanted to show you I had a little change in plans. I wasn't sure if there was enough room for this to fit in front of the car itself. I took it off of the jack stands, or off my jacks, pulled on it gently. The thing rolled out beautiful, no conflict at all. I did do a little more test fitting, by the way. I bolted in the export brace, so it's bolted to the shock towers, and I also decided to set the hood on just to see how close everything is. The gaps are good. It's a little bit out of adjustment. The fender can move back there and on this side as well. So I'm very happy with how all this fits. I'm not going to lift the hood because it might slide to the back, but with the export brace bolted in, everything measures out really nice and I'm very happy with it. Okay. Woo! There is a little number down in the corner to designate which video this is in the series. Now at this point what I'm trying to do is salvage the firewall and the air boxes on the side of the car. So I have to be careful with how I take this apart. The cowl is no good, not worried about it, but if I do damage to those other pieces, that'll be a problem later. Aha! Oh, that looks a lot different now, huh? there you go. To me, it's critical that I get this as flush as possible. So if it's set too deep, it's not going to look right when I blend it. Okay. I think I can live with that. So these are all the areas where it had pitting. Some scratches. Might as well blend them all. You can weld the back edge and reblend that, but this is actually in good shape. Same thing up here. All this is welded good. So, yep. There you go. So now I want to draw a line on this piece. Okay, it is an awkward piece, so it's not like just going to sit still for me. All right, you get the idea. I'm going to keep blending this down. I'm not worried about this being a perfect transition. Wow. How strong that can be. Whew. Okay. Look at that. Lo and behold, that piece popped right off. There's some pieces parts. So as I said, you know, you've seen all this stuff mocked up together. I'm going to go over more of those details as I move forward, but I want to show you some things as to what I'm talking about again. Take off the upper half of the cowl, and I know I've shown this before, but I want to keep everybody on the same page. One of the conflicts is this right here. This little flange is hitting the airbox. Up here, I can move this in slightly. There will be adjustments made to make sure everything's right. So I've got a little bit of an overlap here on this flange. So this can't sit down in the way it's supposed to. And then, as I said before, underneath here, it's hitting, if you can see that, it's hitting on this structure. I'm sure I've said it before, but I'll say it again. That little Arc Captain welder does a fantastic job. I have been provided welders from other people, and they do work and do a good job, but I'm so pleased with Arc Captain and how they have supported me by sending me that welder and then offering me one to give away to a fan, which I did. What I did is I made some lines and I cut off that bottom edge, so that's all cleaned up. I also took the hammer and dolly and flattened out the flanges, so that looks much better than it did before. And I flattened out the spot weld locations, so I'm going to have to weld these back solid again. I win. Oh gosh. Look at all that rust. All right. There it is. No, look at that. Now, is there one hidden? I see a spot weld there. Ta-da! All right. This one appears like it's solid enough, but if it's not, I can hand make that piece and blend it right in, and it'll look good. So, yeah, overall, it looks like a decent rocker panel. I have received the rust encapsulator from Eastwood. Now, this is meant, from my understanding, is to go right over rust, but I'm still going to treat this area, make sure everything's taken care of, and then I will still apply this to help seal everything up. The way you're supposed to do it, you apply a little bit, or put a little bit into a cup. So I'm just going to apply this to these areas, and you can already see it's changing color. Okay, I decided to rinse this off with the hose, just make it a little bit easier. Again, this area is really not necessary, but I'm going to get it in that overlap on this side as well. Get too carried away at that. Now, of course, I do a lot of measuring and refitting and test fitting to make sure everything lines up the way it should when I'm putting stuff like this together. This worked out really well. I can't stress enough how much effort you need to put into clamping things in place, making sure everything is tight and right before you start doing any welding. Here I am just tuning up the edge just a little bit before I finish welding it on. I'm very happy with all that. I don't think I could have got this any closer to dead on than what it is. Everything's clamped where it should be. Up here, this is all lined up. It fits the shape of the roof panel, or the flange up here on top, dead on. I don't know if I can show you or not, but the wheelhouse, it's all where it should be. It's hard to get the camera in here. It's all where it should be. The overlap here is at 0. So this part is kind of bittersweet. You know, I do enjoy using the plasma cutter, and I frequently use it to cut up panels or dissect things, but this was different because this process, I was basically cutting up the rest of the original car. Now granted, most of that wasn't usable anyway, but it's just one of those things you realize this is the end for this car. Now I was trying to save the quarter panels and be very careful with those, because I did plan initially to use those quarter panels or parts of the quarter panels on the new body that I'm putting together. The rest of this stuff really had no value. It was just in the way. Now, I do hang on to all of this metal because at the end of it all, this metal has brackets or pieces that are usable, or maybe a reference point for the future pieces that I put on the car. This, this stuff is rusted beyond use, really, and I did save this rocker panel, or the bulk of this rocker panel, but everything else just had to go. It was kind of funny as I was cutting this apart that this, I cut something loose right here, and basically it just fell apart. There was only a little bit holding it together at the end there, and then of course I made a pile, and all of that made it to the back of my truck where it'll sit until I'm ready to salvage any of those parts. Now in this sequence here, I am working on the rocker panel, but I'm also working on getting the fitment correct with the wheelhouse, because those interact so much. So there it is. I didn't get quite as far as I wanted. I was hoping to have the driver's side panel on top of this, but it's a short week. We got a long weekend coming up for Labor Day, and I got done as much as I possibly could. Now before I show you the interior area of the frame rail where I've welded all the patches and blended it down, I want to show you this wheelhouse. I'm happy with how everything's turning out. Now when I did have this indexed forward, all of this lined up, and it's going to line up anyway because the edge of the frame rail is here and it can't go anywhere else, but it can't come over until I modify that bottom section. And some of these welds may look a little different. This area here, there was a bit of a concave shape, so I may go over that one more time. I'm not sure. It did weld nice. And back here I was experimenting, just trying to lay beads on top of each other just to see what it would look like. Now before I get too far along, I want to tell you that the roll bar is not in here correctly. When you look at their video in the 68, they show it going on the front area of the torque boxes, okay? And I had put this in initially with the bar on the back side based on the brackets that are welded onto the top of the bar there. Well, you get one side in and the other side pops out, and oh boy. So that's completely off. So in the previous videos, I did some work on the Detroit Speed mini tubs. I also worked on test fitting the Mustang's Defeater roll bar that they offered, and that had problems, as I showed. I've been contacted by, I guess, their chief engineer at Mustang's Defeater, and I think also got a message or saw a message on Facebook, or I mean on YouTube, from, I'm guessing, the owner of Mustang's Defeater. They're not happy with their product. And they don't always line up. So what I have in my hand is a very small, very thin screwdriver. And so by manipulating the flange like that, I can bend it one way or the other to get it to line up. Moving along quickly with little spot welds really won't make much difference. It'll still turn out very nice. And you know, for the most part, you can't have welding without grinding. So here's where I'm at right now. I have welded that edge all the way across, and you saw in a time lapse I did grind everything down. In the last video I took the upper half of the original firewall and I welded the bottom half of a dynacorn firewall to it, and today what I want to do is install the firewall, get the aprons in place, mock things up with the core support, check the fitment of the cowl, and really start buttoning down the whole front section of this car. Everything for the lower cowl is fully welded. Now I have to do a bunch of grinding. Get all that smoothed down, get this smoothed down, and also prep for the air boxes to go in, as I had mentioned previously. Holes are lined up in the firewall and the lower cowl, and that's a good stopping point. Get underneath this and knock it off without doing any damage to the rest of it. So let's just see what happens. And I still have some other welds that I need to blend down, but I think you get the idea on that. Contact points are going to be, so it's critical to get this level up here at the top. I still have the little pieces I need to put here, and those are original pieces that we have as seen here. So as you saw, I took that little finger wheel, as I call it, and I cleaned off the EDP coating on the outside, or well, it's the outside of the frame rail, but inside where the torque box goes. Okay, this outer plate or forward plate, lower plate, however you want to call it, this thing is fitting very snug. I'm afraid to get it all the way in because I probably won't be able to get it out. So here it is, all welded in place. Okay, so I need it to come over a good bit. You can probably see there's a hump right here. If I could get that to slip in there, that would be fantastic. However, I don't see it happening. I don't know how much overlap I have of the tunnel to the pan itself at this point. So I have welded in the seatbelt mount points. I'm really unsure what their intent was with this. And I can use my jig here to push that up, but it's only going to go so high. I try. You know, there's so many times that I've kind of redesigned other people's stuff, but I can't justify this. Okay, so obviously this is just sitting in, just sitting on here. This is very tight right here, and I have more of a gap on this side, but I have nothing's anchored in. This is just sitting there, and so there's room for adjustment to move it around, but I don't want to get too carried away right now. I want to make sure that at least it's close at this point, and I think it's fine. And here's the packaging from NPD, and these are the parts. Now these are going to go inside the frame rail, and what this does is it acts as a crush resistant piece. Okay, I did not get all of the videos that I did throughout the whole year, but again, I took a lot of pieces of those videos to make this compilation. So I hope you enjoyed it. I want you to have a happy new year. I also want to shout out to all my patrons who have been following me and helping me to continue to make this channel happen. I appreciate you so much. I genuinely do, and thankful that you are staying with me and continuing to do this stuff. So that'll be it for now. And until next year, Take care of yourselves. See ya. Hey gang, welcome back to okay.